I'm Montel from Triple M Enterprise, delighted to be joined by another superstar, Alex Lee Guevel. Hope I pronounced that correctly.
You did, mate. You did. Very good.
Lovely. So you are the main man when it comes to community development, and thank you for joining, first of all.
Pleasure. Pleasure, mate. Yeah, head of community development here at Matchroom. Dream role. You know, I kind of manifested this over a number of years. It was a vision that I had many years ago when I was working at Northamptonshire Sport, then England Boxing, and I used to come to these events as many people know as part of Kieran Conway's team, and I used to come and just think, do you know what, like, these big promoters, and specifically Matchroom, you know, they're kind of like, it's a family business. They've always done, there's so much in terms of like what they've given back to sport over the years. If we actually had a real strategy behind this, like, think what we could do. And I guess that's what I kind of pitched to Frank and Eddie over the course of a number of years, and been in 2.5 years now, and I think we're doing some good stuff. So,
To be fair, from what I've seen, it's been good stuff. But let's start from the beginning. Let's start from when you was younger. Like, what was you doing back then? What was your aspirations like when you was younger?
So I'm from Northampton in the Midlands, or the East Midlands, and Northampton's a big rugby town. So I kind of grew up, I loved all sport. I've always been really like super sporty, into everything, rugby, football, cricket. Always loved boxing, but I never really got into it when I was young. I think my mum probably, she was a bit scared of me going down to a boxing gym, that kind of thing. So being from Northampton, I typically just went into rugby. And the school I went to, Northampton School for Boys, which I was fortunate enough to actually go back to last week to go into a careers assembly for the year 8s. When I was there, it was, it's actually now ranked as the #1 state school in the country for sport. So I owe so much to that school for, you know, the opportunities it afforded me. One of my best friends at school, and certainly the one that did best rugby-wise, is Courtney Laws, the former England captain, Northampton Saints, British and Irish Lions. So yeah, people like Courtney have gone on to great things, and I like to think now that outside of, you know, off the pitch and away from kind of the playing side and participation side, I'm hopefully doing good things and making our town proud as well.
Took the words out of my mouth. I think you definitely are making them proud. What spurred the interest to actually do things within the community?
So I think I've always, like, from a young kid, playing sport, being part of teams. I was fortunate enough to travel the world with school. I went to South Africa on a cricket tour. I went to New Zealand on a rugby tour, in Australia. You know, they're the kind of opportunities that not many young people get. And I think I saw very early that the power of sport and what it can do in terms of building friendships. Like, a good story is when we went to New Zealand on a rugby tour, we were billeted with local families, and I was 16 years old at the time, and I met a guy called Marlon Walker. He was my billet in Auckland, and to this day I'm still in touch with Marlon. He actually ended up moving to the UK, played for Cornish Pirates, played professional rugby. He's now married to an English woman, and we've stayed in touch to this day. So I think I saw very early on the power of sport in terms of, you know, making friends, building confidence, resilience, the power of winning and losing. We had a very, very good school rugby team. We were very, very good at it. We were very successful, but we had wins and we had losses. And I think I learnt very early, like, just that power of sport and what it can do. So I think now what we're doing with Matchroom is obviously utilising the platform that we have, and, you know, boxing as a sport, I think, is a vehicle for, you know, inspiring kids, and, you know, kids that maybe don't necessarily have it all. I think it's an outlet for all sorts of different things, and it can reduce crime, social behaviour, can, you know, boost people's confidence, resilience to all kinds of issues that they might have in their young lives. And yeah, I think I saw that at a very early age, and that's where the passion came from.
Oh, amazing. That's a really good story as well. So what actually made you, from your first job, let's go back. Let's talk about your first job, your first ever role. What was that?
So after school, I went to university, did a degree in sports development at Leeds Beckett University. And then I was very fortunate. Like, I think I used my time very effectively when I was at uni and when I was at school. Any sort of free periods or any opportunities I had around work experience or whatever I could do, I'd always, rather than sort of like, you know, going out with my mates, messing around, doing all this kind of stuff. Not saying I didn't, but, you know, it's if I ever got an opportunity or that anything was presented to me, I'd take it. So, you know, in school holidays, in university holidays, whatever it was, I'd be doing things that related to a career in sports. So I'd be going and doing some coaching. I'd be going and, you know, I'd get a job that's related to the industry. So then when I graduated, I was in the fortunate position that I'd built up and had a lot of experience. And I ended up working at Daventry District Council, which is just like 20, 30 minutes up the road from Northampton. And I was a sports development officer, which is exactly what I did in my degree. And I think the beauty of that role was at uni, I learned everything sort of by the textbook. I learned exactly, you know, the participation pyramid. I learned mass participation, how to get more people into the sport. And it was 2010 when I graduated, with the Olympics just on the horizon. So it was a great time. You know, the eyes of the world were on the UK and on London for the Olympics, and it was a great time to graduate. So yeah, I think, you know, I kind of, there were a lot of exciting opportunities that presented at that time, and because I built up that experience at uni and through school, I kind of had a leg up on other people, and I think I ended up getting that position, and I learned that all the things you learn in the textbook are great, but in the real world, it's hard, and you have to justify your position. And I think it's actually the assembly I did the other day, I actually spoke about this, the importance of justifying what you do, and Barry writes about it in his book, Don't Be a Secret. Promote what you do. If you're doing something good, shout about it, because you never know when you might need to justify a position, or, you know, roles that are funded by Sport England, by government funding. You know, sometimes you need to convince people that these roles, you know, need to continue, and that's exactly what we had to do early on. So I think I learned very early, and it's funny how I got taught that in my first role to now work for someone like Barry, who, you know, in his book he's got his 10 commandments. Don't be a secret, and that's a big part of what I do.
And before Matchroom, what were some of the other roles and places that you've worked in?
So after that role in at Daventry District Council, I worked at, I moved into, there's a college in Northampton called Moulton College. It was a big sports college, and that was a position funded by Sport England. So I got kind of experience working in further education, helping to get the college students into more activity, more physical activity. And then from there, I moved to Northamptonshire Sport, where I was the national NGB lead, so working with national governing bodies. So I worked with 16 different national governing bodies, one of which was England Boxing. And that was my first kind of, the first steps that I took into the world of boxing. So how it all came about, I was working with rugby, tennis, bowls, boxing, judo, all these different things. But with boxing, we did a load of really good work around facility funding in the town. So the first boxing club I ever went to was Far Cotton Boxing Club in Northampton, which is quite famous because Chantal Cameron used to box there. It's one of the clubs in town she used to box for. And I helped them get, it was nearly £70,000. We helped get to get a new roof for the club, and did a load of really good work. And then from there, a lot of the other local boxing clubs were like, oh, hang on, I like what's going on at Far Cotton. I want a bit of that. So then I, through the connections I had with England Boxing at the time, I then got invited down to Kings Heath Boxing Club, which is, at the time, was run by two people, Arthur Daly and James Conway. And obviously that's where Kieran Conway was training at the time, as well as Ethan James, Ben Vaughan, like a bunch of really, really successful. In fact, Kings Heath won the Haringey Box Cup. And that year, I think they beat a bunch of international teams. I think it was like 2018. Had like Ethan James, Liam Davis boxed for the club, Nico Levers, people, you know, in the world of the pros, people, familiar names. So yeah, that was my first introduction to Kings Heath, and I guess that's where the journey started, really, where I first met James, first met Kieran, and I guess that's a huge part of why I'm here today.
Did you ever participate in boxing yourself?
I did. So what I did, when I went to Kings Heath, I was probably about 26, 27, just about 10 years ago. And I was still playing rugby at the time, but I always wanted to give boxing a go. So when I went down for the meeting, I remember I actually turned up, and Arthur and James told me years later, they were like, who's this guy turning up, like rugby guy, turning up in shorts, looking like typical rugby guy, always, you know, that they do. So I turned up, and they didn't know what to think of me. And but I had this aspiration to go and train, so I wanted to help with the funding, but I also I wanted to, you know, selfishly wanted to go down, and I wanted to learn how to box. So James and Arthur said, well, come down, like, you know, get more involved. So I used to go down, did a bit of sparring, learn exactly what the sport's about, and had that. I think that's vital, to be honest, that people have an understanding and a respect for the sport. So anyone that works in boxing, I think they should at least, not say spar, but I think at least do a session, understand how hard it is. Because what these people do, it's superhuman. So yeah, so I did that. And it kind of evolved, you know, because of what I was doing. I think the guys saw that, yeah, I wanted to be like a recreational boxer or whatever, maybe have aspirations to box one day, but also like I'm the funding guy. I'm the guy that can help on this side of things. So because I became friendly and familiar with everyone, they sort of got me involved on that side, and I ended up helping with, you know, my spare time as a club volunteer, helping with funding applications, helping the club develop. And we ended up doing some great stuff down there. But that's really where the journey started with James and Kieran on the pro side, and that's really why I'm here today. So.
Honestly, that is a crazy journey.
It's a bit mad.
And the fact that you've actually done boxing as well, I think, like you said, is very important. It
Yeah,
shows
a little
discipline.
bit. I wouldn't say, I'll never say I'm a boxer though.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
know too many boxers to ever say I'm a boxer, so.
Of course. But talk to me now about some of the funding applications. Like, how did I get started? Like, where does step one begin for you to even look at funding applications?
So it depends on different, so there's kind of two different ways I'd look at that. Obviously, alongside my role as head of community development at Matchroom Boxing, I'm also a trustee of the Matchroom Charitable Foundation. So what we do with Matchroom in terms of that is people, it's not just sports clubs, it's all kinds of charities. You have to be a UK-based registered charity to apply, but we support anything really where there's like, whether it's linked geographically to locations that we as Matchroom, touch, obviously like Birmingham, like we are here, or whether it's London, Newcastle, Manchester, Sheffield, the kind of places we put on events in boxing, but in darts, in snooker, in pool, all the sports that we work with. Also, it will be causes that are close to maybe the Hearn family. So if there's any kind of like, physical ailments or illnesses that have maybe touched that family, or people within the business, maybe that's something we might want to support. Or whether it's sports that we're involved in as well. So you'll have seen probably we have two major charitable partnerships in boxing. Those number one's with Empire Fighting Chance, who are a Bristol-based charity, and a large part of what they do is to mentor other boxing clubs to become better. So on the funding side, they're supporting other boxing clubs. Since we've actually funded them, it's been, I think the clubs, 56 clubs that are part of the network have now raised over £5 million through the initial donation from us. That's led to £5 million going into the sport of amateur boxing already in just year one. So by the end of 3 years, the impact's going to be huge. And then secondly, the other charitable partner is Street Games, who basically they have a concept called doorstep sport. They take sport to the doorstep of young people in low-income, underserved communities. So it's all about taking, for us, boxing, but also darts, snooker, pool, all those kind of sports to young people so that they can get all of the impacts and all the benefits that I guess I touched on earlier that I felt as a youngster.
No, those are great initiatives. So because we spoke about Matchroom already, let's talk about how you actually came about into getting to Matchroom. You did mention a story off camera that I love about the proposal, but talk to me about exactly this opportunity.
Yeah, so obviously I kind of alluded to the fact that I don't want to blow too much smoke up his ass, but Kieran Conway does have quite a pivotal role in all of this because his hard work and what he did by getting signed with Matchroom and ended up boxing on loads of shows is what opened the door for me as part of his team. I'll wrap his hands, I'll do his cuts, but actually I do a lot more on the side from that as well. And I used to come to the shows, as I say, and just think like, I think there's a lot I could do here. I knew that Matchroom at the time were maybe giving a bit of money here and there to boxing gyms, and it's maybe buying a few bags that probably need replacing in a few years. It's not sustainable. It's not having the greatest possible impact it could. So what I did and where it all began was Kieran boxed on the first Canelo show that he ended up taking part in, which was Canelo Billy Joe Saunders at the AT&T Stadium in Dallas, which was a crazy experience, like partly because we were so late getting out there because visas and God knows what was going on. But we got there, and I remember it was just the crazy experience. A Canelo show is different to any other. So being around that was incredible. And I guess maybe something around the magnitude of that event made me sort of think, I'd always say to anyone, dream big, but maybe being in that kind of, you're in Texas, everything's bigger. I thought, well, I'm just going to shoot for the stars. So I remember wanting to work at Matchroom, and I was sitting in the hotel lobby, and I saw Eddie, who was bombarded by everyone doing interviews, as he does, as he's just been doing across the room. And I saw Frank, who was like super busy, but more behind the scenes. I think I don't know what he was doing, probably just running the show like usual. And I thought, you know what, like that's the guy I need to go and speak to. So I don't ever want to be a passenger. I want to be the main role. I want to be leading the charge. So I went and spoke to Frank and just said, look, I know you think I'm just Kieran's mate, or you might think that right now, but actually this is what I think I could do for you. Outline X, Y, and Z, and kind of just left it at that and said, look, and we exchanged numbers and said, we'll stay in touch. And then we did over the course of like 2 years, really. At the time I was at England Boxing and I was pitching around, what a partnership might look like for them, but really with a view to what it might look like for me. And as I say, after like 2 years, it'd been 5 years at England Boxing in my role. I'd kind of taken on more and more work and regions and everything. I was managing the Empire programme as well for them. And I just thought, there's so much more I can do if I was working at Matchroom. So I reached out to Frank again. Weirdly enough, I was looking at I was looking through the other week, maybe a couple of weeks ago, at my old messages, and just like how I don't want to say pestered, but how I was persistent and how I sort of managed it, because it was ahead of going into my old school, because I thought it's a valuable lesson that I need to impart on the young people. And it was funny looking back, because you're thinking like, I was stubborn. Like he was super like, you know, keen to speak as well, but also he's so busy. And I was always trying to look for ways of like, you know, when's the right time to catch him? When can I do this? But yeah, it got to 5 years and I was just like, do you know what? I got to go for it. And luckily Frank invited me to put a proposal together. And as I showed you off camera, I remember looking at my screen thinking, oh God, what am I going to do here? Got all this up here, how do I get it onto that laptop? And yeah, I did. It was 28 pages altogether. I did an executive summary because I knew I wasn't going to read 28 pages. But yeah, I just thought, do you know what? You get one chance, let's take it. And it got me in the door. So here we are.
Leading up to that point, because that's an amazing story, what were the traits that you picked up before you went and approached Frank?
I think I'd always be so, and I get a lot of people ask me, like, you know, especially after the Netflix documentary, oh, I want to work at Matchroom, what do I do? And I think it's always like, as I said, don't ever be a passenger, don't be a secret, like, but don't be afraid to, you know, explain how you're very good at what you're doing and what you think you can bring, like back yourself. You know, I think it's very important to do that, but you have to sort of manage it carefully. I used to sort of, you know, it's a careful balance between sort of being annoying, but also getting what you ultimately want out of this. And what, you know, the reason I wanted it is because I knew how much we could do. It's not necessarily just about me. Like, selfishly, I wanted to work for Matchroom and everything that brings. But I genuinely believe that if Matchroom, like they have, believe in grassroots and community in this role, then I think we can transform the sport. And that's way bigger than me. That's way bigger than anything. So yeah, I think it's having that vision, sticking to it, believing in yourself, and not taking no for an answer.
Some sound advice, but what are some of the mistakes you made along the way?
Mistakes?
Or some of the biggest ones that stand out to you?
Well, it's tough because obviously I got to the outcome I wanted, but I think maybe sometimes sort of sitting on my hands and not doing things when maybe I could. Because I think knowing Frank now as I do, it's cool. You can contact him. He'll come back to you. Like, you're not being a pain in the ass. You can speak to him. These people, at the end of the day, they are just people. They're extraordinarily good at what they do, and they're extraordinarily busy, but they are just people. So reach out to them. Like, and I probably should have done that a little bit more, you know, rather than holding off. Maybe I'd have been at Matchroom 3 years now rather than 2.5 years. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, just don't hesitate would be the number one thing. But yeah, I think it certainly turned out for the best.
It definitely has.
Yeah.
What are some key moments for you that you've had since being with Matchroom?
Since being with Matchroom, I think first day, walking into the office and just being like, okay, so it's not a normal office. Like, this is work now. I think that would be a milestone. I think some of the work that we've done in and around lobbying with government, the UK government, you know, doing some of the stuff we're doing now is really high level. We're being seen, we're changing the perception of what Matchroom is as a business. We're the world's leading boxing promoter, but now we're a real front runner here in the UK and soon to be globally in terms of like the sport for development space and being a force for boxing for good. So I think I'm very proud of the work we're doing there, and it's an ongoing challenge and a battle, but it's a fight that we're going to win. And I think there's a few other sort of moments that stand out as well in terms of, I remember the first time doing an interview alongside Eddie, because like I've been fortunate to do a few interviews since I never did before I worked for Matchroom, but then I've done a few and always really enjoyed doing them. When I did one with Eddie, I was stood there and I was thinking, I've got a long way to go here. And I think it's those realisations where it's like, you're learning all the time. Same when you're in a room with Barry. Like, any moment, I was lucky enough to sit down with Barry for an hour the other day, to have an hour of someone like Barry Hearn's time. You're literally sitting there and you're just absorbing it all, and it's a blessing. So I think things like that stand out. And I guess working with certain fighters, you know, Johnny Fisher's been amazing. We've done some really great stuff. Like, he's someone that really passionately believes in what I do. And I think some of the stuff in the States as well, like, I think earlier I showed you one of the photos that I'm sort of most proud of, which is a real pinch yourself moment where, like, it's me on stage, some bloke from Northampton with Boots Ennis and Bam Rodriguez to my left and right. Yeah. And I'm conducting a Q&A in front of a bunch of kids in Boots' old neighbourhood in Philadelphia. They're the sort of moments you just think, like, how do we get here? I get goosebumps thinking about it. So, yeah, I'll be the one person at Matchroom, and I'm sure, I say this, but I'll never moan about my job. It's incredible. It's a blessing to be here, and you just take every day as you're very grateful for the opportunity.
And some of the skills and the moments that you've had, like, how has it translated to your personal life as well, like some of the traits that you've picked up?
I think, well, I mean, for a start, Johnny Fisher calls me Matchroom Al, so it's born a new nickname. Matchroom. So yeah, I don't ever want like Matchroom and boxing to define my personality, but I think it's a huge part of me. You know, anyone that works at Matchroom, you have to be comfortable with the kind of the idea and the concept that like this is your life now, and you have to, if you want to be successful at Matchroom, you throw yourself in wholeheartedly, and I will do that, and I am doing that. Like, you know, every waking moment, I'll be thinking about, you know, pretty much something to do with work, something that I can expand, something that an idea I might have, or all sorts of different things. So I think it probably does impact things personally sometimes in terms of like, am I always present back home? Like, am I just sitting here thinking about boxing and boxing in the community and all this kind of thing?
Yeah.
But funnily enough as well, like I actually did meet my girlfriend on a fight day 5K. So it's definitely had some positives as well. So here in Birmingham actually as well. So yeah, I think Matchroom's definitely had a positive impact on my sort of social life, personal life, everything. It's a great place to work, and as I say, a blessing really.
Do you have any advice for someone that wants to work for Matchroom? You kind of touched on it a little bit, but just any key tips?
Number one, if you want to work at Matchroom, you don't be afraid of hard work. Like, you throw yourself in and you make the most of it. You've got to have a work ethic. You look at Frank, you look at Eddie, you look at Barry, you look at Katie, you look at all the people that are doing great things in this business. They work hard. There's no substitute for that. So I would say be prepared for that. As I say, don't be a secret. I think it's really important if you're doing something good. Who cares what people think? Like, you want to be shouting about what you're doing. You want people to be aware, especially for someone in my role as well. You know, it's a new role within boxing, not just Matchroom. So I think it's, you want people to know what you're doing. You want more people to be aware of the great things that we're doing. But yeah, I think a good example is just speak to people. Like, at the end of the day, reach out. I always say a good example of what I think someone should do is like, come to a fight day 5K. Frank will be there, Eddie will be there, the fighters will be there, I'll be there, Kyle will be there. A bunch of different people at Matchroom who do different things, who have different varying levels of influence, will all be there. So just come down, do something positive with your Saturday morning, and put yourself out there, introduce yourself, because you want to be familiar. The way that I got in was being a part of a fighters team, and I was a familiar face, but I actually happened to have, you know, I was a familiar face, but I had a vision, and I believed in the vision. So I think it's partly that as well. Like, if you come into the table and say, I want a job at Matchroom, you got to back it up with a good idea. You got to have the vision, and you got to believe in it, and don't waver from that. Self-belief's a huge thing. So you've got to do that.
That's some sound advice. Talk to me about your first event that you actually set up yourself from Matchroom.
First one was, I can remember it very well. So it was at Limehouse Boxing Academy in East London. And it was during AJ Hellenius fight week. So my first fight week with Matchroom was actually Dalton Smith up in Sheffield. But then the first one where I did an event, I used that one to kind of scope things out. But yeah, I did an event at Limehouse Boxing Academy, who are great. They're a DICE academy, so Diploma in Sport and Excellence. A lot of the young people there have stayed in touch with. A guy called Billy Macy, who's a top lad, won the ABAs last year. Really nice lad who's done a bit of work experience with us and stuff like that. But some of the fighters that were there, you had Giorgio Visioli did his unveiling photo shoot there. Giorgio's someone that I've been very sort of heavily involved with as well. Great lad, knew him all the way through the amateurs. Johnny was there, and we didn't know each other at the time. Now we've become really good mates. Who else was there? Brandon Scott, Spider-Man. There's a bunch of really good people that came down to support the event. Eddie came down, and yeah, we sort of, you know, it was more of a kind of gym visit, inspirational stuff, but getting a sort of a formula for what these events might look like. And I feel like I haven't really thought about it, to be honest, but when you look back at that event and now the kind of things we're doing and the scale of them, and now they're in other countries and, you know, all over the place, I think we've come a long way.
What are some of the principles for planning that you've used for these different types of events since the first one?
I think a big part is, you know, getting the support and buy-in from the wider team. That's a huge thing. So for me, what I didn't understand early on is how important it is to kind of tie in with, like, say, the comms team, and how we can, because a lot of what I want to do is amplify the benefits of boxing, right? So if we can get more media interest in what we do and more eyeballs on things, then that ultimately is what's going to amplify it. So it's doing things now that make sense, that promote a fighter, promote an event, where there's like a narrative and a storyline that sits beneath the event as well. So the way I explain it to people is, when I'm trying to put something on, there's kind of three principles. So I'm always looking for different elements of value. for me, my priority is always the social value. So for me, it's not, I mentioned about gym visits popping down. It's always great to go and inspire the kids. But if there's an extra layer to that, like you're trying to save the gym, maybe there's a particular project or campaign you're trying to get behind, or it's a partner we're involved with, that's an extra level of social value, and it's going to actually develop the sport. Sometimes we produce a video after events. For me, I see those as like an in-kind donation to the clubs. If we tailor that to a project or campaign they're working on, they might get funding out of that. They might, get an MP visit. They might get the mayor to come down, that kind of thing. So there's a lot more social value that can be done. But then that's not enough on its own. You have to have promotional value, so whether that's for a fighter or the event that's coming up, or an event that's just passed, and then also brand value. So like, can we plug an Everlast, the Drip, 10% Club? Some of our wider partners, can they also come down? Can they activate around it? And if you can get all three, then you're laughing. Then everyone's happy, and it just becomes bigger and bigger and bigger.
To be fair, the core principles would probably apply to different aspects as well,
100%.
just within different businesses. But let's talk about one of your bigger activations that you've done. Like, what was it like setting one of those up?
So I'll probably pick, we've done some pretty big 5Ks, but steering away from them, I'd probably say the event that we did at the AO Arena earlier this year, ahead of Jack Catterall and Harlem Eubank. So together with Street Games, it was kind of partly in line with our official announcement of the Street Games partnership. What we ended up doing was pretty cool, to be fair. Like, how many people get to go and see the AO Arena when there's no setup in there, there's no rigging, there's no nothing, it's just the empty arena. So what we did is, it was just over about 100, 120 kids from across Manchester, all part of the Street Games network, so all low income, underserved communities, the type of kids that don't get those opportunities. We invited them down to the AO Arena, and we had loads of different fighters down there that were involved in the show. So we had like Jamie Moore came down, we had Alfie Middlemas was there, Will Crawler, Anthony Crawler was there, Kieran Conway came down and was overseeing a virtual reality boxing program and an activation. And all of those kids got the opportunity to try out boxing within the sort of basin of the arena. But then also they got to experience a backstage dressing room tour with the Crawlers. So Will and Anthony were taking them around, and they were kind of, Anthony was saying, well, this used to be like my home, and Will was saying, I want it to be my home. And then we had an inspirational talk upstairs. Rhiannon Dixon said some words about, the power of female boxing, and, what it's done for her coming from being a pharmacist into, now being a boxer, and what the sport's done for her. So that'd be a really good example. It was a big event. And I think in terms of social value, off the back of that, I was invited to attend a violence reduction unit partnership as part of the Greater Manchester Violence Reduction strategy and strategy around young people. So again, we do a big event like that, people sit up and take notice and go, hang on, like, we want Matchroom to join alongside your Man United Foundation, your Manchester City, your big names in the city. Like, we're now being seen as a key driver within that city around violence reduction and strategy for young people. So we put on big events. Where does it lead to? So I think that would be one that stands out.
Oh, congratulations on that.
Thank you, mate.
What are they like? So when you actually have those secondary meetings with like the foundations for Manchester City and Manchester United, what are they like for you?
Amazing. Like, they're doing great things. And I had a really, really interesting meeting a couple of weeks ago with Manchester City up at their headquarters. Like, my God, I tell you, like, people think our office is cool when you go up to their training facility. My word, that is incredible. But went up there and they do loads of great things with, you'd think it's a football foundation, right? So you think it's all football, but no, they do loads. And they're actually involved with Collyhurst and Moston, and Moss Side Fire Station, with Nigel Travis, those guys. They do work with the boxing gyms, but they want to expand it and do more. So they reached out to me off the back of the Violence Reduction Unit meeting. And it's great to see, when it's work that's in motion at the moment, but just to think, because we're going to get this going next year, early next year, I'd imagine. You think when you bring Manchester City and Matchroom together, like, we can do big things on our own, they can do big things on their own. But when you put those two together,
Huge.
That's huge, right? There's going to be a lot of media interest. There's going to be a lot of people thinking, like, my God, this is really cool. And other football clubs might look at that and go, well, do you know what? Like, maybe our community element or our foundation should be doing stuff around that as well. So I think it's really important that we form these kind of partnerships. And I'm really excited as to where it could lead, because I think that, people are going to sit up and take notice when the kind of stakeholders like that are in the room together. So
that sounds amazing. That's also almost some breaking news there. So thank you for that. Do you ever get nervous for any of these meetings at all that you have?
No, do you know what? I wouldn't say so. I'm not someone that I don't tend to get nervous ahead of many things. mainly because I try and prepare. Like I always think I'll be nervous for something if I haven't prepared for it. Yeah. I kind of quite like the adrenaline and winging it sometimes as well, but I don't tend to. Do you know the way I see it is like I belong there, and I believe so wholeheartedly in what we're doing and what I'm doing and what I'm driving within Matchroom that I just see them as opportunities. I don't sort of spend any time thinking, oh, like, got to go and speak to the Prime Minister, I've got to go and present at Philadelphia City Council, or I've got to do this, I've got to do that. And I just think like it's an opportunity to speak about the great stuff we're doing. So maybe that's just like you reframe it in your head or whatever, but I so passionately believe in what we're doing that I don't think I do get nervous. I just look forward to the opportunity, and I think, you know what, like more people, ultimately from this, more people are going to know about what we're doing, and that is the aim of everything.
That is sound. What's a day of preparation like for you?
I probably try, depends really, like ideally I try and plan my week so I can prepare from home, so I'll be like working from home and I can really like focus on everything. It can be a bit difficult sometimes in the office because it's so busy, there's so much going on, so you're trying to sort of do as best as you can, but also sort of like resisting conversations with colleagues, that kind of thing. Sometimes a day of preparation, like for the Manchester stuff, for example, will be me sat on a train. So I'll be, you know, sitting there, I'll be working away, I'll be like typing up some notes, thinking in my head about, you know, the key messages I want to get across. And I'll be using those train journeys. I spend a lot of time on trains. I spend a lot of time driving around. So yeah, I think maybe those lonely train journeys is probably a big part of my preparation actually when you think about it.
And it works.
I think so.
It pans out. What's a day in life look like for you?
Oh my God.
All right, today, for example, then.
Today, so I woke up early, wanted to cram in, you know, something at Matchroom that's really big is the importance of fitness and staying fit. I think like a healthy mind, you know, and everything, you operate to your best capacity. So I went to the gym this morning, then I packed my bags and got up here for the press conference. And then obviously we caught up ahead of what we're doing now, and just grabbed the bite to eat. I've been doing a bunch of different emails, catching up because I had a charitable foundation meeting yesterday with the board. So you know, going through the minutes, going through the actions, what that's going to look like. Mate, it's completely every week's completely different. I could be like down in Bristol with Empire Fighting Chance. I could be on calls around planning events in Ghana, putting together a proposal for Philadelphia City Council. Just trying to think things that have been going on. Speaking with Ishmael Davis about some of the work we're doing in prisons, and using his background and what we're doing with that, and to inspire, you know, young offenders at the moment, and that kind of thing. So. Yeah, that's, do you know what? It's like the impossible question. What's a day in the life at Matchroom? Mate, it's complete. Every day is completely different, and that's the beauty of it.
To be fair, that's what a lot of people would love. Anyway.
Yeah.
Have you had any pinch me moments, other than obviously when you started, stuff like that?
Oh, loads. Like the first time I was in a meeting I remember sitting there kind of outlining the role to Eddie, Barry, Frank, Katie Hearn, sitting there. And I've spoken about this before, like the concept of like imposter syndrome. And I remember sitting there just thinking like, definitely like, not nervous, but just thinking like, what am I doing here? Like I've spoke it into reality now, so amazing, you pinch yourself. But then again, it's that belief in what you're doing and that passion for it. I think some of the stuff that I've done in America, like the Boots and BAM stuff, has been massive. Been fortunate enough, you know, now you look what those two fighters in particular are doing. They're becoming pound for pound the best fighters on the planet. And to have probably done more community events with Boots Ennis than anyone else is a bit of a feather in my cap now, I think, as we're sort of developing. I think some of the stuff that we do with the APPG in Parliament, you're there and you're just thinking like, I had a meeting the other week with the Sports Minister, and Chris Webb, who's Vice Chair of the group, he was chairing the meeting, he outlined what we're looking to achieve, and then he passed straight over, of all the people in the room, he passed to me. So I'm sitting there, and it is a pinch yourself moment. You're thinking like, we're now being seen as like the forefront of the revolution to get more grassroots funding into amateur boxing clubs. So I think you do sort of pinch yourself, but then also like you stop, you get yourself out of that, and you just think, no, we're here to do a job. And there isn't, do you know what, I've just thought, because the next show coming up after this one is Monaco, and there is a moment where I was in Monaco last year for that show, which is incredible. It's an amazing experience. I remember sitting there in the hotel room. The hotel that we go to is incredible. Like, so it's just the whole week's a fascinating, amazing experience. And I remember sitting in the hotel room, and I must have been in my role maybe just over a year, and we'd obviously done a bunch of really good stuff. And I remember sitting in that hotel room in Monte Carlo, just thinking like, oh my God, And I felt almost like you could feel a bit of emotion in your voice, in yourself, just thinking like, God, my God, I've worked hard to get here. Yeah. And like you can feel that, like you allow yourself as a bloke, like people don't get emotional about things. But I thought, do you know what, like I've worked damn hard to get here. But then I kind of snapped out of feeling like, it's almost like euphoric about it, and just thought, no, do you know what, like this is just the journey. Like all the hard work you do to get to Matchroom, that's just the beginning. So then it drives you to then want to go to the next level. And I think like a year on, going back to Monte Carlo next week, like I'm definitely very proud of what we've managed to do, and I think like I'll be even more proud going back, and I'll feel another sense of euphoria as well in the same way. Yeah. So I think that was definitely a pinch yourself moment, also quite a proud moment. It's not a normal environment to be in.
That was actually a question I was going to ask you about proud moments, but how do you cope with the stress of what you do? Because it obviously must come with a lot of stress as well.
Yeah, It's like it can be stressful. I like to, so I observe Frank quite a lot. I look at what Frank does, and I think Frank, the way I'd kind of describe him is almost like, it's a bit like a swan on like a sort of like this, well, probably quite a chaotic lake, to be fair, but like Frank is like above the water, he's kind of like, very stoic, he's very kind of, he's just gliding, but actually beneath the surface there's a lot going on. And I think like particularly fight week sometimes can be so busy. Like, you're in meetings, you're doing this, you're running events, your phone's going nuts, everything's going on. And I think it's just like you have to try and compartmentalise things. You have to just do, at school it was always drilled into us, just be the best that you can be. So all you can ever do is your best. So if things go wrong, which they will go wrong, like, okay, cool, it's gone wrong, how do we deal with it? Look for solutions. So I think it's trying to stay calm. It's having a solid belief in what you're doing, and just trying to be sort of like present in the moment, and just, I don't know, just believe in what you're doing. Like don't stress, try not to stress. But the key thing is, if you're prepared and you've planned everything, then if you've done everything you possibly can and something still goes wrong, then that's just what someone wanted. That's just the way it was going to be. So what can you do? You can only ever try your best.
That's some brilliant advice, to be honest with you. And let's look to the future now. So what are some of the plans that you've got for the future in terms of the business side of things, what you're doing, community development?
Loads. I mean, I'd say...
You can share, sorry.
Yeah. No, of course, I'd say probably to pin it down to two, and it's mainly around expansion. So I think one thing I've been really proud of is I kind of built the blueprint for community within Matchroom, within boxing. And now over the last year or so, I've been working with the PDC, particularly around PDC in the community, the smart energy program that we have, darts on your doorstep, all this stuff, which has been amazing. And those guys in the PDC have really led, and I kind of like provided ideas and thoughts and the blueprint for things, and they've really ran away with it and done some great stuff. And I kind of consult and advise, and I think it'll be expanding that, doing more with, the World 9 Ball Tour with Emily and the team, with the guys in snooker, expanding what is community across Matchroom. That's something that makes me very proud, and I think it's something that I kind of brought to the business, and I think the more we do around that, I was at the family fireworks night the other night, and Barry introduced me to someone and said, hey, he's the guy that makes us look good. And I think it's a lot more than that, but I think actually when we do that across the whole board, and it's not just one sport, it's 4, 5, 6, whatever it is, then that's great. And then the other element to that in terms of expansion is I want to replicate everything we're doing in the UK across the world. And I think the natural place with the team that we have in boxing, obviously in the US, is the US. So I've been fortunate enough now to do the last 3 Boots fights, 2 in Philly, 1 in Atlantic City. Obviously that's very close to Philly as well. So I've had 3 trips there. And I think one of the things that blowing my own trumpet, I think I'm good at networking, I'm good at building networks, and that's ultimately what it's all about. It's the strength of your networks is how far you'll get in a job like this. And in Philly, through those 3 trips, like I don't go to be a passenger, I don't go just for the ride, I go to do some serious hard yards. And we've managed to pretty much infiltrate the highest level of city council, some of the biggest hitters in terms of corporates within the city, the Comcasts, people that basically run the city. And we're doing some really cool stuff. And I think now we have the program in the UK with Empire Fighting Chance, building this network of clubs of boxing clubs that they're all kind of supporting each other and doing great things to make the sport more sustainable. The plan is to now take that to America. And I think because America's so big, that's a challenge. But I think also there's different, so in the UK, we actually have quite a lot of support for amateur boxing clubs via England Boxing and that sort of thing. In America, they don't really have that. And because every state runs things differently, that presents a huge opportunity. So I think that if we could do this in Philly, which we're going to do, we're not far away from doing it now, I genuinely think when we roll that out with USA Boxing and other partners that are involved, I genuinely think we can transform the sport in the States. So it's a big kind of goal, it's a big vision, but I've achieved everything so far, so I ain't seeing nothing stopping me this time as well.
Have to dream big to achieve big.
Exactly, I dreamt big to get this job, so I'm going to keep dreaming big, and we're going to continue to. Global domination is what they say in the documentary, so let's do it.
Yeah, exactly. What was that like for you, actually, the documentary, being mic'd up and filmed up?
Mad, yeah, mad. I wasn't, the side of my head's in it for about half a second, so I wasn't, certainly not a starring role. But it was bizarre. Like I remember being, I was still with Matt Porter at one of the PDC Darts and Doorsteps events, and I just saw this like boom mic appear over me, and we were talking about darts and the inclusivity around the sport and that kind of thing, and sitting in team meetings with like your cameras on and all this kind of stuff, and it's not normal. But again, I think it's like a perk of this job. You know, it's you go into the office one day and like, you know, I don't know, Piers Morgan's there interviewing Eddie and Barry, or Dynamo the Magician's in, or whoever. Like, that's just Matchroom, isn't it? So yeah, it's a pleasure to be around it, and hopefully, you know, everyone keeps talking about Series 2. You know, maybe Matchroom the community will make an appearance that time.
It needs to. It needs to. And how do you scout out areas that you're looking to help and support?
I think the best case scenario, to be honest, because capacities, and it's always one of my biggest challenges, is when people, like organisations or fighters, come to me with ideas. That's a great way of doing it because it's organic and it's something you know matters to them. So that's always a good way. But I think with me, again, it goes back to networking. It goes back to kind of my career path and working in so many different types of organisation. Like, there's not many people within the sport development and that kind of world, sport for good. There's not many people that I won't have come across in some way. So I think when it comes down to Matchroom and our commitment to grassroots and giving back, like, if there's something around underserved communities, or there's something around sustainability, or there's something around whatever it might be, apprenticeships, which is another thing I'm looking at, you know, I'll know people. And if I don't know the right person, I know someone that does. So I think the beauty of it is the network. And I think I bring a lot to the business in that sense, because I just know, I'll know, if I don't know someone already, I'll know someone that does. And it won't just be someone that's going to do a sort of half-assed job. It's going to be the industry leader in that space. And we're the industry leader in our space. If we pair it with other people that are doing great things, you know, that's only going to benefit the sport.
I agree. And when the applications come through, what are the key things that stand out to you that you make a decision and go, all right, these are some that we think we should partner up with?
I think it's around, when it's stuff with the foundation, again, I'm looking for criteria around what would Barry like it? Is it something that Barry set up this business, right? Is this something that if we back this, or we do this project, we do this event, is it something that Barry would be proud of? I think that's something that always comes into my mind. You know, he's someone that I've looked up to externally, like, you know, from afar for a long, long time. So to now be in a position where you're almost charged with managing, you know, the foundation is going to be Barry's legacy. So that's a huge honour. And I think that is a big question that I always want to answer. But ultimately, again, it comes back to that social value, promotional value and brand value. Like, for me, it will always be like, how much social value is in this? But then actually, it's not good enough if it's only that. Can we also help promote an event around this? Can we promote one of our fighters and do something good for them? And maybe the brands as well. Because I think if we get all three, then the events are phenomenal.
Totally understand that. And we spoke about, obviously, the professional side of things, achievements. What are some of the personal achievements that you want to achieve in the next, let's say, 5 to 10 years?
Personal achievements. I think just continue, like, I don't necessarily have like somewhere like, oh, I want to be in this position at Matchroom, I want to be doing this. I just want to keep making things bigger and better every time. I want to refine what we're doing and I want to expand. So I want, you know, something, it's a work aspiration, it's a project we're working on, but with the stuff in Philadelphia, there's an opportunity amongst that to do something to try and save the Joe Fraser gym in Philadelphia. So it's things like that I have a real aspiration to do on, like, what I believe would be like a global level. I think if we manage to save that gym for what that was to that man, and Matchroom can be part of that, and Empire can be part of that, and Fighting Chance USA and the organisation we're setting up there, that's huge. So it's those kind of things. Like, I want to keep I think when you've had conversations with some colleagues as well, it's about, they probably explain it's a lot of like spinning plates. Yeah. You're keeping some plates spinning, but you want to like always be looking at what's next. For me, it's about expansion. It's about new sports, new territories, new types of project. I think I'd love to build capacity as well. I'd love to build a team. At the moment, like Matchroom in the community is me and my team supporting. And the rest of the team supporting me, but I'd love to build and add capacity to that. So yeah, I think they're things I'd love to do, but it comes back to just number one for me is I'm just incredibly grateful for the opportunity to be doing what I'm doing. And the overarching objective is to just, the people that believed in me, just keep making them proud, keep doing a good job, keep doing a great job. And as I say, sort of like, I believe that we can transform the sport, not just here, but all over the world. And it's hard to, you can't really quantify or measure that.
True.
But I think the bigger this gets, the more eyeballs that are sort of on the work that we're doing. I think the proof will be in the pudding, and we will be able to do that.
Big aspirations, like we said. And talk about building this team. So is this something that you're looking to do in the short term of things, or is it something that we mentioned, obviously 5 to 10 year plan? What would you be looking for within those members of that team?
So I think for me, it's, again, I don't just want to sort of, if we're to build a department and recruit to that department, I wouldn't want it to be, I always like to be a bit different. I don't like being the same as everyone else. I quite like standing out and doing things differently. So I wouldn't want to just like, put a pitch into Frank and say, I want to hire someone. I'd want it to be part of like a program that's maybe given back to young people, maybe like an apprenticeship program, an internship program. Maybe it's something, again, it's supporting maybe like ex-offenders or neat youngsters, people that, not in education, employment, training, that sort of thing. Kids that maybe, or young people that maybe don't have the sort of opportunity. People that watch Matchroom on TV and think, how on earth do I get there? Maybe just meeting a rough diamond and sort of shaping them into, what ultimately would be a Matchroom employee. Like for me, I want to sort of do that and document the journey. And I think the platform we have and the power of Matchroom goes way beyond just the events and the legacy of those events. I think like you look at some of the people that have built up within this business. Frank started as the T-boy. Emily started, being like a runner and that kind of stuff. People that have started from the bottom and worked their way through in the business. A load of people have done it. And I think because of the nature of the business and the nature of some of those stories, I think we're in a perfect position to, maybe offer experience and opportunities to young people in that way. So I think that's what it would look like. It would have a lot more social value to it than just right, there's an advert on LinkedIn, off we go.
That makes a lot of sense. It sounds very appealing as well. Do you still do some research outside of what you do as well to obviously enhance your skill set? Yeah,
I'm always looking. I'm always learning. I'm always reading stuff. I'm always, watching what other people are doing. Other promoters. Some do little bits and pieces around this. And for me, I always say, like, if any other boxing promoter or people involved in the sport get involved, do more of this. We'll just do it best. It's all good. Everyone else should be doing more of. Giving back to the grassroots and helping the amateur game and supporting, boxing for good in community. So I would always say just get involved and do more. But yeah, no, I'm always watching, learning, and I'm always looking at ways that we can add value to what we do as well. So another thing that I've been doing is working with research partners, so universities. We just had some research published in partnership with Teesside University. So those guys looking at a paper called Fighting to Survive, looking at the precarity of amateur boxing clubs and some of the challenges they face. And all of those clubs are people that we visited, that we put the university in touch with. They've interviewed them. They're all part of either people we visited or the Empire programme. And again, it's using the resources and the networks and everything that we have. And then, a university goes away, does that paper, and then they feed it back into us. Then when I go into Parliament or when Eddie goes and meets the Prime Minister or whatever, we've got all these amazing case studies and stories, but also we can back it up with hard data and facts, because we'll never see change unless we've got both. I always say it's like in boxing, you're never going to stop someone really. And you might do if you've got a proper dig on you, but you want to be going for like a body and head approach. If you break down the body, then you'll ultimately get to the head. So I think with what we want to do is we want to go for the body through the heart with the stories that tug at the heartstrings and all that kind of thing. How boxing transforms lives, talk about some of those transformational things. But then ultimately you go for the head with the mind and the data and the facts. And that's where decision makers all go, do you know what, like, we need to pump more money into that sport, because it's not just people getting in the ring and fighting. There's so much more to it.
That's actually really interesting to me. How did you get into the research side of things? How did that even start?
So again, it's network. So one of my friends is doing a PhD at Teesside University. I've got another one at Nottingham-Trent University that I know, he's an S&C coach that I know. So again, it's people that I've met over the years that I know that they know a lot about the work I do. They understand it because I've spoken to them personally about it. We've spoken for many years. They knew that I wanted to do this. So even though they're external, they don't work for Matchroom, they're people that understand what this mission is. So it's building this huge kind of, it's like a gang of people, a group of people that are all collaborating and all supporting this overarching objective. So I think, yeah, it's their personal relationship. One of them, one of the researchers at Teesside, actually, we used to share an office in my job at Martin College. We used to run a business together, so we've stayed in touch with mates. And yeah, so it's all relationships I've built over years and years and years, and staying in touch with those people. Not like, you know, leaving a job and saying, "Oh, see you later, mate." Like staying in touch with people and going the extra mile, because it's just, yeah, it's easy to be nice to people. It's easy to stay in touch, and you know, the benefits of that will always be seen one day.
Exactly. It's like sort of planting a seed and just reaping the rewards later on.
Absolutely. Yeah. That seed was planted in an office in Northampton in 2015, maybe earlier, and now we're doing that work together. So, you know, it's crazy. You know, it's when I went back to my old school the other week, and I saw Mr. Juicenap, who's the first teacher that planted the seed within me, that, you know, sport development, go and do this, all this kind of stuff. And I've always stayed in touch. You know, when I saw him, went to go and watch a rugby game, my old school. He was there. We had a great catch up and everything. And then, you know, if I ever do anything good within work that I'm proud of, I'll let him know, because he started the journey. And I think it's nice to always like give back and let people know the impact they've had on you. But, you know, it's, you know, if I ever needed some advice from someone wise, then that's an extremely wise person that I've known over the years. And it's, you know, I think it's just important to stay in touch and be nice to people and thankful for what they've done for you. So, like you say, plant those seeds, who knows what it could bring.
I agree. Talk to me about that moment. What was that like going back?
Going back to school?
Yeah, what was that like?
Oh, mate, loved it. So I'm like the biggest advocate. Anyone that knows me knows how much I love my school. Like, I've never moaned about school days at all. It was incredible. Like, as I say, the opportunities I got to travel the world, and my mates, most of my best mates are still the lads from school. I've known them, you know, 25 years, like crazy. So yeah, it was amazing. And to go back, I went back last year to do like a careers evening. I had like a stand, Matchroom in the community, all these kids coming over. Some of them, you know, boxing, oh my God, incredible. Some of them were like sixth formers who might have been interested in like going to uni and doing a law degree, and they were like, "Oh, boxing, what's this?" And I was like, "Well, I tell you what, like we've got lawyers. Jay, who you interviewed the other week, you know, we've got a whole team of lawyers that work in boxing." They were like, "Oh, no way, I didn't know that." So there was a lot of people that came and spoke to me at that event, who, you know, they maybe knew a little bit about boxing or of passing interest, but then actually we all found common ground through sport in some way. Like, there's so many different roles that there are within sport. You don't have to do what I do. You don't have to get in the ring. You don't have to be doing that sort of, there's so many different things. You could work in comms, you could work in the social team, you could be a lawyer, you could be the next Frank Smith or Eddie Earn. Like, who knows what you want to do. So that was a great event to go to. And then, yeah, going back and doing an assembly the other day, it was a proud moment. Like, you stood on stage, 220 year 8 kids, and I opened up with the trailer for the Netflix documentary and was like, yeah, these are the people I work for, and I started where you were. So like, don't ever think you can't do it. So I think it hopefully was quite powerful for them to see like just a guy from Northampton. Like, you know, I was sat in your seat, and I flashed the image up of our rugby team, and I was like, well, I do what I do, but that guy's Courtney Laws, he used to captain England. Like, that's 2 lads from the same year group, just like you are, that have gone on to do one, amazing things on the pitch, and one hopefully doing things off the pitch or out of the ring and that kind of thing within sport. And I've got a load of other friends that were in the same classes that have gone on to do amazing things themselves as well. So just believe in what you're doing. So yeah, to answer your question, very proud. I was actually meant to I got called in to try and do another one yesterday, but because I was in the office, I couldn't go.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go back next term, and it's going to be a continual thing. different year groups, going back, talking about the journey and listening to your teachers.
Extremely inspirational.
Yeah.
Talk about what legacy you want to leave behind, because this is obviously a new role, right? So you're going to have your own goals and stuff that you're going to start to set in stone, milestones that you checked off, but what legacy do you want to leave behind?
I think the biggest objective that I have is to see more money into the sport of boxing. So I think if I was to look at all the partnerships and all the work that we're doing, I'd probably pinpoint the stuff we do with Empire Fighting Chance, and I'd probably steal a term or a phrase that Martin Bisp, the CEO of Empire, uses, where he talks about Empire Fighting Chance is the Empire Gym is a gym in Bristol, and they do incredible things in Bristol, but they were kind of asked over many years to, expand, franchise out, do more work. And Martin never wanted to do that. He wanted to, have an impact, but not build an empire, so to speak. So what they ended up sort of deciding on was building this network of clubs and looking at how that might actually, transform communities. And it's basically community has the answer. It would be quite arrogant to sort of suggest that you can just hop into a community and go, oh yeah, I think this is what you should be doing. But actually, if we can upskill and embed the blueprint and the philosophy, the right philosophy within communities, then community has the answer. And I think through that work, where it links back to me is, I think when you add the sprinkle and the stardust and the amplification that we have at Matchroom onto a program like that, I think that, £5 million in the first year. We're projected to bring in over 12, 13 million pound at the end of the initial three-year program. That's huge. And ultimately, if we're doing that work and we're educating clubs, we're making them better, we're teaching them how to become better and more community focused and all this kind of thing, and be around for the long term, it doesn't matter. I could go tomorrow and get hit by a bus, or AJ could come and chin me, and something like that. Yeah. And it wouldn't matter, because we're embedding the right philosophy within these clubs, and they're going to continue to be great no matter what. So I think it's trying to do things where, you can say about spinning plates, you can keep that plate spinning on that project, whatever, but when you leave it, it continues to manage itself and continues to expand. And I think that's where, this expansion to the US comes in. We're doing this stuff in the UK. The natural next step now is to well, that's great. We're doing amazing things. Now let's go to the States. So I think that's what I want to do. Like I say, ultimately, the term they use on the documentary is global domination, but it doesn't really fit for community necessarily, because it's not like it's not a business. Mine's less of sort of a business objective, but I think global domination within the community space looks like being the absolute leader within boxing for, grassroots community, using the platform of a boxing promoter to change the sport. So yeah, it's a lofty ambition, but I firmly believe we'll get there.
Conquest for change within the community.
That's exactly it. Exactly it.
That's what I'd probably title it as.
Yeah.
I'll charge you. No, I'm joking. But honestly, this has been brilliant. Is there anything final that you want to just get out there from what you do and what you're looking to bring into the community to create that change? What
would I say? I don't think so. I think a big thing for me, and it links back to what I said right at the very start, is about not being a secret. So I think for me, and it's an ongoing challenge in such a busy, such a busy industry. There's so much going on. We're at a show this week, we're in Monte Carlo next week, then we've got Stockton, then we've got 3 shows in a week all over the world. So it's making sure that what we do within the community gets seen and heard more and more and more all the time. So I think that if anyone's ever interested in finding out more, then reach out to me. If anyone wants to, anyone has ideas for activations or projects that we maybe should be aligned with, or things we should be doing, or wants to ask any questions about the kind of things we've been talking about, just reach out. Like, I want to be at Matchroom. Sometimes it can be seen as like, it's this organisation on TV, how the hell do you contact them? Like, I want to be the person you can speak to, like the guy in the community, the face of the community. So like, come and see us at a run, come and speak to me. Like, I'll never turn anyone away, because I was once in the position where I was desperate to work at this place. So I'll never say to anyone like, sorry, I ain't got time for you. So I just sort of say that to anyone, like, just come, have a chat. And there's always ways of working together, whether it's like just to provide a bit of advice or whether it leads to something more. I think that's really important. And the more people that are on this mission, the better. Because that's, it's one man on his own can only do so much. with a business like Matchroom behind it, you can do a hell of a lot. But when you've got like the masses behind it as well, it's unstoppable. So I think just, yeah, I'd urge everyone to get on board, back the mission, and change the sport.
Oh, I love that. I love that. I'm gonna end on that note. I love that. I love the journey. Thank you again for your time.
Pleasure,
man.
mate. No
Really
worries at all.
appreciate it. And that is another episode of Beyond the Title. So thank you again.